All right.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for you. Um, so let's begin. First of all, well, many things have changed in popular music during these years, and I was wondering, how do you recall that initial tumultuous period with Suede and this present time? What has changed, and what remains?
Oh my God, everything's changed. It's weird. The music industry, the industry has changed entirely. It's a completely different thing, but the music doesn't change. I mean, that's what music does and how it affects people is completely different. I think nowadays, with the advent of kind of the internet and streaming and stuff, I mean, in a way, for older bands like us, I think it's been amazing. You know what I mean? When we first played in Chile in 2013, I think, something like that,
Yes,
to
more
come
or
to
less.
that we'd never been to, and to have thousands of teenagers singing every word to every song. There's no way that could have happened 20 years before. That's a generation who, are learning about music through streaming, which is brilliant for us, because we tour a lot and all those things. What it's done to younger bands is the exact opposite. It's made it almost impossible to make a living out of making music unless you have rich parents. It's turned it into um, a rich kids game. It's in Britain when I see, kind of like record company things, it's public school boys. So it'd be churlish for me. Like I say, for us, it's been fantastic. And, we can go to China and Kuala Lumpur and Chile and, Ukraine. We can go to these places and people know the music and they connect with you in a real way. Um, but what it means for the future of music, I think, is much, much more concerning.
Yes, and very it's very good for us, for my generation, the ones that were kids when we listened to Suede for the first time, to watch you over the years.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
took many decades to see you live, and we were hoping, but we just saw the videos, and we
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
have the chance. So it's very good. Um, and I was wondering also what happens to you when Suede disbanded in 2003. I think there's a story of Brett Anderson telling you, "This is it, no more." How
Yeah.
was that time to you? I was wondering if you decided to become a writer at that time, or it was a previous thing, a parallel thing. What happened?
Yeah, no, no. I mean, that's when I decided to be a writer. It's kind of, I'd always had quite a romantic idea of being a writer. That what I love about it is that you don't need any equipment. You know what I mean? All you need is a brain and a pen. And I love that idea that you can kind of like make a life out of just making stuff up. That seems great. I mean, the band splitting up was the best thing that ever happened to us. We wouldn't be here now making the kind of records we do if we didn't have a few years away from it. Because when we came back, you suddenly realize what's important. You learn how fragile it is, and you learn what a privilege it is to be able to fly around the world playing your songs. You know what I mean? And every time we go into a new record now, or a new gig or a tour or whatever, it's with the knowledge that these things are fragile and this could easily be the last one. You know what I mean? And it just ups the stakes so much. And I think our kind of quality control has got really high because it's just like this matters. You know what I mean? It's not a job. It's not an everyday thing. It's something kind of sacred.
Good. What were the elements that brought the band together in 2010? Uh, that
It
you
was,
said something about, you know, taking lessons out of life, I think. But
I, you know what? In 2010, it wasn't really that. We got offered to do a gig for the Teenage Cancer Trust, which Roger Daltrey puts on every year at the Royal Albert Hall. Um, and we hadn't thought about reforming at all. But it came up, the idea came up, and it was like, oh, this is perfect because it had kind of like ended so kind of we just kind of faded out. There was this idea this would be a perfect full stop. You know, no one can accuse us of doing it for the money because it was all for charity. It cost us a fortune. And we'll come in, we'll play one perfect gig of all the our favorite songs, and then we'll just go our separate ways again. And it was literally on stage about halfway through the gig. It was just like, oh no, I can't stop doing this again. You know what I mean? I'd kind of forgotten what the feeling was like when you do a really good gig and when people want you to be good and people love it. You know, it's an incredible feeling. And literally halfway through, there's a moment where we look at each other and you can see us going, all right, here we go again.
That's incredible, because it's like an epiphany, but also you forgot what was in the past, what had brought you in the past as a live band.
Yeah, totally, totally. I'd just forgotten the physical pleasure of it, you know, the noise of it and a crowd jumping up and down in front of you and that connection, that incredible connection between you and kind of like 5,000 people. It's such a weird experience that you don't get anywhere else. There's a reason why so few people actually give it up. Normally people get retired, they don't retire.
Now, there are many songs from the Autofiction record that are played live by the band recently. How was the creation of these songs? Because there are a number of elements of Brett's personal life, and of course, the coincidence of his two memoir books.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we rehearsed the record during lockdown, um, and it was kind of necessity the way it worked. I think we didn't have any crew or anyone working with us, so it was just the five of us in a room. So that's one of the reasons why I think it sounds quite raw, and you know, there's no overdubs or anything like that. And I think we had been through a kind of period of reflection, and there's lots on that record, which is about kind of young people looking forward at what's going to happen to them, and older people, looking back, you know, and looking at our kind of, you know, I knew Brett when he was like 15, you know, looking at the kind of innocence and the passion and and just thinking about whether you can recapture that and whether it still burns in you or whether it doesn't, you know.
Is it comfortable to wear that suit, the suit of a young one, when you're over 50?
It's such a strange experience, you know. I mean, one of the things about being in a band is that you're constantly confronted with your younger self. You know what I mean? There's pictures of you and there's videos of you when you're young and you're pretty. Um, and you have to really make sure that you're not trying to recapture that. There are certain things that are just for young people. You know what I mean? And the way the band was, the kind of sensation of the band, and the press coverage, and just the hysteria. That's about a generation thing. You know, it's about being the first band for a lot of people, being the favorite band, and it's really important when you know, I'm in my 50s now, Brett's in his 50s. It's important that you keep the kind of passion and the energy and the excitement that you get from music. It's important that you keep that. But I think what Brett does really well is he doesn't sing about 20-year-old people's things. He sings about family, and he sings about he sings about relationship, long-term relationship. He
There's
sings,
a song about his mother also.
yeah, exactly, about all of these things. And you just have to trust the fact that if you if there's an emotional core to the song, then it will mean something to everyone. You know, that people will take. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that She Still Leads Me On. You know, it
Mm.
is. It's a song about his mum. It's deeply personal. But I know so many people for whom it's not about his mum. It's about their relationship, or it's about their wife or it's about their kids or you know what I mean? Because at the heart of it, it's about loss and it's about yearning. And you don't have to be 50 to have felt those things, you know what I mean?
Of
To
course.
relationship, you know.
Yeah, of course. Uh, uh, um, uh, what are your feelings about these two very different scenarios you have in Chile in this week? You have one is Movistar Arena in Santiago, closed venue, and the possibility of being at Rec Festival in Concepcion, which is huge, windy, biggest free festival in the region, I think. I don't think there is something that big in South America for free. What are your feelings about it?
I'm so stoked. I'm really excited for it. Yeah. I mean it's the perfect combination because um I love playing the big festivals where people haven't seen you before. You know what I mean? And that I love new people coming to the band, young people coming to the band. You know what I mean? When we were younger, we didn't. We liked to be adored. But nowadays, I quite like having to win people over. I quite like people going, "Oh, okay, we'll go and see what they're like. Because I think we're good. You know what I mean? And I think we put on a show. Having said that, knowing that we're going to do the Santiago gig where I think people will know every song and we can do a load of auto fiction stuff and we can do B-sides and stuff like that. It's a pretty good combination. And, you know, I think the two sides of kind of like being a band are there, that kind of tight little kind of obsessive community. And then, you know, the big, you know, playing the hits thing.
Um, Last year, so the 30th anniversary edition of Dogman Star, the second record by the band, did you listen to it again? What happens to you when you check songs like The Wild Ones, Heroin, New Generation?
Um, I didn't listen to it a lot. There was a couple. There was a couple of the additional tracks that I went back to and had a little listen to. Um, I mean, those songs are kind of they're like fingerprints to me. You know what I mean? They're kind of ingrained in me. I don't really need to listen to them to hear them, if that makes any sense.
And that being said, if you were to pick two or three songs by Suede, which would be your favorite ones? Do you feel same, for instance, for tunes you created, Attitude, Golden Gun?
Um, I would say I love Everything Will Flow. There's just something about that song that I can remember the day we made it, and just that weird thing that you get every now and then, where the sum of what four people are playing turns into something completely different that none of you had intended. And still now, it's one of those songs that just the hairs rise on the back of my neck. Um, I really love Shadow Self from the last record. It just feels like something we've never really done before. You know what I mean? And that's really exciting to me to be this this deep into you know kind of 9 albums in and to come out of the studio go, oh wow, we've never done anything like that before, which is quite an achievement. Um, I really like Life is Golden. That's one that more than anything, the reason I love it is just the way it connects with an audience.
Mm.
You know, it has a message that we've played it in China and Finland and you know just the furthest places from London and people get it. You know, there's always someone in the audience for whom it means something quite important. And that connection, especially connection with people whose English isn't their first language, it's still magical to me every time it happens.
I don't know if you know this story, but there's a very famous kids show in Chile from the 90s called Cachureos. Do you
Yeah.
know that story?
Weirdly, I was talking to another journalist who he knew that song long before he heard Suede, and when he heard the Beautiful Ones, was like, "Why are they covering this? This is the weirdest thing for a British band to do." Yeah, no, it's
That you know that it's definitely out of place completely. Where did they get the song to play it? Because it's very different, but it's the same and it's recognizable. It's incredible.
It's so strange. It was actually Mariana Enriquez, the novelist, Argentinian novelist. She sent it to us, and everyone's just like, "What's going on?" I don't remember approving this.
Well, there's a definition there about the fan in Mariana Enriquez's work. Did you like the book she wrote? Being her a definitely huge fan of the band.
The most annoying thing is that the latest one, the one about being a fan, hasn't been translated into English. So all her novels have and the short stories have, so I haven't read it. I mean, she kind of showed me a couple of bits of it beforehand, the people had done like précis of, but I mean, she's fantastic. She's absolutely great. She's a wonderful writer and really interesting
Yes.
about fandom and stuff like that. I really hope it comes out in English. Otherwise, I'm going to have to learn Spanish, and that could be a while.
That will be good. Very, very good. Now, Matt, finally, The Ghost Theater, your most recent novel, picks up many ideas that I think you recollected on the road, but I think that you were also worried to create something out of the musician's head, distance from that. Can you tell us about this process? It is indeed a story from way back in the past, I think.
Yeah, but weirdly, it's about actors and it's about magic, and I end up seeing things through the lens of kind of performers. I'm constantly interested in performers and what it is we're actually doing and what masks we wear and how it affects us. Weirdly, the central idea for the book came from Kristen Hirsch of the Throwing Muses. She wrote a fantastic autobiography, and she talks about the first kind of like 20 gigs she did with the Throwing Muses. She doesn't remember a minute of them. She walks on stage, she blacks out, she played the whole gig, and afterwards she had to ask people, what did I say? What did we sing? And the minute I read that, I was like, all right, I want to write about this, about where it is that actors and musicians and painters, where do they go when they're making stuff, and who's driving the bus? You know what I mean, when that happens. So I wanted to write something that wasn't set in the present day and wasn't about musicians, so that I couldn't just rely on kind of reminiscences of stories, but it still ended up being about performance and magic,
performance and artistry and all that.
All those things, because it's all I really know.
Okay, Matt. One more mention. Richard Osman is very famous here. His books have been translated too, so we read him a lot. I imagine that we can have your 2 books here soon enough to read them. But I wish you luck. And I wanted to ask you one last thing. An ID for our radio station, is it possible?
Oh, yeah, of course it is.
You say your name, that you're from Suede, and you're listening to Radio Futuro. That is the name of the station.
Hello, everyone. This is Matt from Suede, and you're listening to Radio Futuro.
That is very good. Matt Osman, thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you, Patricia. That was great.
Thank you.
Goodbye.